let's, oh, there we go. So maybe this will be a whole new one. Okay, so Carolyn, I am so excited to have you here with me today, and I cannot wait to hear about your book and to hear about your life. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start telling us about your early years growing up and your childhood?
Oh, well, it's funny I say, well, we can start at the beginning. Do, re, mi.
There you go.
Yeah, so I was a little girl raised in New Zealand, and living there as a child is great. And it was great. So, and I had a big sister and mum and dad. But slowly and sadly, as time progressed, things started to fall apart. And I just say that, two people come together to get married, and we're broken people, aren't we, from the beginning? And just because we come together in unity doesn't make us now perfect all of a sudden. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very sad to I won't relive, but I revisit what happened and the falling apart of the family unity, but that's what happened. And mum turned sadly to alcohol to help her pain, and my dad sort of turned to busyness and helping other people, kids off the street, through Boys Brigade, the church, and just threw himself into work, and it just unraveled. So yes, it always hurts, doesn't it? And the problem is that it continues. But that's where through the writing of my book, actually, I have worked through that process, and I believe have come out healed, because I can tell that when I talk about it, I'm not angry and bitter about it anymore. I just have compassion for two people that were broken, that choices impacted my life, but it shaped who I am. And I see that, Romans 8:28, God does actually use damaged, broken bits, and he can put it back together. Well, not necessarily back together the way it was, but for me, yeah, he's used it for good. So yes, that's what kind of happened as a child. And then I moved in with my sister for a year and her husband, and then I moved to America for a year. And then I came back to New Zealand and became a travel agent for 12 years, got married, had a family, and then we started moving, let me think, about 5 years into our marriage, and we haven't stopped. So yes, 5 children and kind of scattered, New Zealand, Australia, 3 in America, and actually the one in New Zealand's moved to Amsterdam. So we're still traveling and still loving it.
I bet you are. Grandkids all over the place.
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell me, surviving your childhood was and is a significant part of your story. Can you share some insights from your book, probably, on how you coped during those difficult times and what motivated you to keep going forward?
Sure. I've spent a lot of time reflecting back, and as part of my writing journey, because I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't like, oh, good, I want to be an author. No, didn't happen like that. But I'll answer your question first. So in the process of writing, I was studying a book called To Be Told, and it takes you so well back to your past. And I learned the meaning of my name, which I found that was instrumental, because actually I never really liked my name. But people always say Caroline instead of Carolyn. My other siblings are biblical names, and I don't see mine in there. So I kind of felt a little like, rejected in that sense. And I guess I must have subconsciously felt rejected with your question, because that pivotal point was a family meeting, and it was like, well, what are we going to do with her? Because sadly, Mum she wasn't well enough to look after me, and for whatever reason, Dad didn't. And so in learning my name, one of the meanings is that it is the female name of my dad's name, and his name is Charles.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of cool in a way, because Dad raised me as a boy. He longed for a boy, and he kind of raised me as his little boy. And so I was a tomboy growing up. And so possibly I didn't have so much of those girly instincts of really getting stuck in poor me, pitiful me sort of mindset. And I'm not saying that's just women, but I was more the strong, I can do this, oh, too bad about that, pragmatic male, if you would. Right? I just saw it for what it was, made a decision and ran with it. I didn't overthink anything.
Right.
And I really do think that helped me. And so when this opportunity came to leave, as I call it, the debris of my broken home, I just like, yeah, let's go. This is going to be awesome. So I think I really lived into my shape. I think I'm this little adventurer. I'm this little Kiwi girl with a boy attitude of let's just get on with it. So I think really that's perhaps how God made me. He wired me like that. And through the process of understanding my name, and Rick Warren is Daily Hope, which I love listening to every day, and he talks about shape as to who we are, our shape. And God gives us a spiritual gift, individual to everybody. He gives us our heart or our passion. He gives us our abilities, which are slightly different from your spiritual gifting. He gives us passion or personality, which this little alpha chick that would go for anything, and our experience of life. And so what was so amazing in him calling me to write my book was it was again another pivotal moment where he journeyed me back into my past to really understand my shape as to who I really am, especially who I am in his eyes, not who I possibly think I am in my head, or who I am by what other people have told me in the past. And so I really embrace the truth of my shape, and it's life-changing. You embrace what you have had, and it gives you, like I've said in a chapter, it's my fuel to fly. It's my fuel to go. And I'll just read one little quote I quite like.
Perfect.
Until we stop, face and heal the wounds of our past, they will continue to bleed, leaving a stain on our lives. And I think that really has summed up the whole process of my writing, and really embracing life now and going, you know what, they can all be past experiences that now I can embrace and not be afraid of, or not be bitter or angry or resentful for. I ask the question what instead of why. And I think that is monumental. I asked in my head, what was happening back then when I was a little girl? What was happening to Mum? What happened to Dad? What happened to them?
Instead of why was I put there? Why was this
Yes.
on me, and why? It's a good way to look at it.
Very powerful.
Very powerful way to heal yourself.
Yes.
So you've done a lot of generational healing, and did you find that your writing was really what helped you with that?
Absolutely.
I have friends who do writing courses and stuff, and I've hopped on with them a couple of times, and it's just kind of interesting how if you just sit in silent and write, and not that I'm thinking about writing a book or anything, but it's really helped me get through the past and the healing. And I know that a lot of people are talking about the generational trauma that people are going through. And, if we look back generations and generations, yes, we've all of our families have gone through some type of trauma in one way or another. And I think that you've really figured it out how to get through it. And I am you're very inspirational. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Yes, I think I've heard it said too that as you take your thought out of your head and you write it down and you pause and then you perhaps read what you've written, it can help you identify with, hang on a minute, maybe those thoughts aren't quite aligned with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm writing what I'm feeling, and maybe what I'm feeling isn't quite aligned with the truth either. Because the good Lord warns us that feelings lie, they're an emotion, and they can take us down huge rabbit holes.
Yes.
And so it really helped me sift through understanding of truth. And actually what I learned about truth was when my dad remarried and had more children, their belief of truth to who their dad was is contrastly to mine.
Right.
Because he was a different person. He was so much older having those children. He was mature in one way, and dare I say it, maybe not in others. He's still making choices that I'm scratching my head now at 40 going, what are you doing?
Right.
Somebody asked me, with age, comes wisdom. I said, no, yeah, not necessarily.
Right. No, not necessarily.
A 10-year-old can have great wisdom in some regards, but I don't know if you call it wisdom, but yeah, anyway. So I did find that whole process of writing, and I realized that I'd been journaling a lot actually in my life. And as I said, I'd never wanted to write a book. That was never in my head.
Right.
And so the process of writing really is a great therapy.
It is.
Yes.
It is. I'm learning that. I'm not very good at journaling, and but I will get into a series of days where I just, I'm gonna do it. And I guess maybe I haven't found the right time. Right before bed is not a good time. Maybe I need to do it in the morning. And it's just been but when I've done it for a few days, I'm like, oh, this feels really good. And then something will happen and I won't do it. But yeah, it really does help to put things into perspective. And I find that it also helps with being more grateful for what we have. And it's not all negative stuff that you write down. It's more, I'm being grateful about this too. So
yes, that's right. And you know what I said once, that it's like a gym workout that you perhaps didn't want.
Exactly.
Let's face it, we're not all gym junkies, and when we go and we try and we think, okay, I'm going to try this, and your muscles hurt, right? They hurt in places you didn't actually realize you perhaps had muscles.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, like, why is that so sore, or whatever? But over time, those muscles grow and the pain disappears.
Right.
So with writing, another thing I learned was to write in the crack, which I really, yes, I know. And so that is in those moments, just when you have a minute, like sometimes something may come to mind as you're driving, and as a writer, they said, well, you need to write those down. Well, if you're driving, on your phone, you can speak into your phone. So dictate a thought and you can tease it out later. Or if you're just sitting and having lunch and something comes and you look around and you're grateful for, I don't know, that beautiful tree or something.
Right.
Those moments. So we don't have to always be that intentional to benefit from, just, I guess it's like capturing your thought in the moment and just writing it down.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
Need to do more of that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
So can you share any particular story from your book that is particular inspiring moment that showcases the transformation of power and hope. I need coffee this morning. We are out of coffee at my house.
Oh, dear. Yes, one that was very emotional for me. We'd lived in Australia for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, let's say. And I went back for a family occasion, and I was excited. I took my eldest son, and generational pain. Oh boy. It just, because I'd lived it so much of my life and seeing the choices my parents made, it was so glaringly obvious to me as I went back, and we tried to have these fun moments, and I think my son he wasn't really aware, let's say, but I could just see it. I could see it in the eyes of my dad. I could see it in the body language, and then we had the party, and let's just say some of what happened was pretty shattering. Yeah. And then we go back to my sister's house, and she got broken into. And so it was literally shattering. And then the police had to come. She wrote a report. And, it all just was quite shattering. And I got back to Adelaide, dusted that off. The kids went to school. I'm sitting on our deck, feeling, to your point, really grateful for my family, for where we live, the peace of where we were, the kookaburra in the tree. And I was actually doing my Bible study, and I was just really brokenhearted at my family. And this is years after, I'm now in my 40s.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, God, this is so upsetting. It's so painful. And I'm just taking a moment. I'm just crying. I'm just going, this is a beautiful day and the sun's shining, but I still feel broken. Mm-hmm. And I'm dripping tears, and they land on my Bible, and I look at my pages, and I've got an old Bible my father-in-law gave me, and the paper is like tissue paper, and it was all sort of looking really fragile, and like it was sort of shrunk and changed funny color. It's not like a droplet on wax. It wasn't like that at all, and it looked really fragile. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like that. And then next minute, it was raining.
Oh.
I look around. It is pretty flat, and where I was, I could see way out to the ocean. There was not a cloud in sight. And I looked down to this verse, and it said, draw closer to me and I'll draw closer to you. And he wept. And I was just like, oh my gosh, to me, no one can ever take that away from me. If people don't have faith, I kind of get that. I do.
Right.
But Jesus wants a relationship. He doesn't want us just to have faith by going, oh, well, yeah, the sun's come up, so I guess there's a God in heaven somewhere because I can see the sun. Mm-hmm. It's not that sort of understanding. It's a real deep relationship, and feeling rain from heaven, and then 2 minutes later it dried up. Well, not even 2 minutes, probably 10 seconds. It was just such a touch, saying, I get it. It breaks my heart too, seeing your family in pieces. I get it. And yeah, he's such a personal God, and he meets us where we are. We don't have to be all clean up and tidy and, perfect or gone through a ritual. He just wants us as we are, the way we are. And he goes, yeah, I'm here to give you a big hug. And it's just so precious.
He does definitely want to meet us where we are. And we all need to step back and just realize that he is here for us, and he doesn't care. He just wants to be there for us and walk next to us.
Yes.
And it's a
precious,
tough situation for a lot of people. What advice would you give individuals who may be at a crossroads in their lives, unsure of how to transition from challenging situation to a more purposeful one?
I'll start at how we started our conversation, do, re, mi. You got to stop and pause. Got to stop to start with. I think humans really struggle with that, especially in today's world. We are so busy, right? So busy. And interestingly, we write our own schedule. No one's forcing us to do half of what we, we do. Right?
No, they're not.
So I think to start at the beginning, to stop and pause and really have a hard think about what you believe. You know, who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? I'm doing the study of John at the moment, and I'm only in chapter 2, and John said, I am not. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. He didn't start with who he was. He started with who he wasn't. Right. And he said, I am not the Messiah. We want to be gods of our lives. We really do. We want to control and think we control everything. Hello, people, we don't.
Right. No, we don't.
We aren't God. And here's this God, like I just told you, that is so personal and is so almighty and everywhere, omniscient, all-knowing, you know, all-powerful. And he really longs to help and be with us and walk us through this life. And so if we just do, re, mi, and stop at the very beginning, stop and think, stop and pause, maybe stop and start asking yourselves questions. What is it that you want? Ask the what questions. You know, what do I want? What do I believe? Andy Stanley, I quote him all the time. He goes, what we believe, we act on, and there's our outcome. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is we're so busy in the acting out, and here's the outcome, and it's not changing, right? So you're asking me, how do we change? Well, sadly, the fool, they say, is the person that continues with the same action, expecting a different outcome.
Right.
So to Andy Stanley's point, we need to go back to the beginning. What do we believe? And the word believe is spelled B-E-L-I-E-V-E. So we need to really assess what we believe, because like I said earlier, some of what we believe is not true. Like if I believed what I thought was true as a child, I'd be a very different person. And yeah, to my point, my poor mother, she had her birthday yesterday. She's 87 years old.
Oh, happy birthday to your mom.
Yeah, she's still alive. It's a miracle. But sadly, she still believes the lie as to who she heard she was as a little girl.
Yes. And
so we've got to do the work ourselves and assess really, what do you believe? And then question, well, is that really true? Mm-hmm. Is that really true? And just try to sift through some of those questions. And part of that in my journey is claiming who your authority is and what your authority is, because that will determine, again, the outcome. So my authority is the book, Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth, the Bible.
Yeah.
And my Bible, you know, is falling apart. And somebody said, well, if your Bible's falling apart, you won't be, right? So
there you go.
There you go. So that would be my advice to people. Start at the beginning. Understand who you are. You are a child of God. He sent Jesus to die for you while you're still in the state that we're in, right? He loves us that much. He is chasing us down every day. He loves us to the point of death. Right? He does. And he wants us to live with abundance, heaven on earth, not just when we get to heaven. He wants us to experience that now, experience his love now, experience all that he is, so that we can truly live. And that's why a friend,
love your sweatshirt,
gave me my sweatshirt, and it's Romans 12:12, which is love springs eternal, hope springs eternal. So that really is my answer. The authority is written in this word, basic instruction before leaving earth. And you have to decide. We all have choices. and what we choose will determine the outcomes. And know that we have choice, because we respond to everything and anything. Every time there's a decision to be made, we respond. And even if we don't respond, we've responded. By saying, by doing nothing is still a response.
It is.
So we have great power ourselves, even though we think we don't sometimes, we actually do. So question yourself. Who's your authority? Who do you listen to? Is it true? And just spend the time for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do definitely believe the lies in our head.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it's a continual battle. I still do that. I mean, even last night I couldn't sleep that well, and I'm like, stop, no, stop, thoughts, stop. You're keeping me awake.
Exactly.
and so, it says take control of what you're thinking, even if it's in a sub-mental state. Oh boy.
You wake up and you're like, whoa, what happened?
What happened? Exactly. I've been through the war. And I'm like, yes, my brain
it was go to sleep. Oh my goodness. So looking ahead, what are your aspirations and goals for the future, both personally and professionally? You're going to write a book?
Sure. So through my journey of writing, I met Eric Mills in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. As I said, I wasn't prepared to write, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I invested in myself. That's another little tip. I invested in myself, and I flew to Austin, Texas to a writing course. And I met Eric after a very busy day writing. And I said to him, so Eric, what's your story? He goes, well, I've adopted a little Chinese orphan girl, and I'm writing about that. But in the interim, I've also started a foundation called Faces with Names.
I love it. So
all my book proceeds are going to Faces with Names. And you'll go, but why? You only met that guy once. And I only did meet him once. But God joined the dots. When I was a little girl, I was about 5. We had very little. I would buy books on Africa. I loved them. I'd sketch the lion head and the elephant. And I just loved all things Africa. I became a travel agent. Then I find myself in Africa, collecting sticks in the middle of the Serengeti, and these little faces popped out, and I'm like,
right,
oh, gosh,
those are the faces.
They're so happy, and they're welcoming me, and I'm like, but I'm invading your space, but they were so happy, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then my daughter went to Malawi, and she's helping orphans. She's helping children that have lost parents through HIV/AIDS, and she came home with these photos. Here were these faces again. So when Eric told me that and he showed me this brochure, I went, oh my gosh, that's it. My proceeds for my book are going to them. And we are providing living hope for the children over there, schools, safety, education, food. It's just, I really encourage anybody who's interested or half interested, have a look. Their website's amazing, and to see the hope that we're being able to offer these children and the widows, actually, it's just amazing. So to live outside ourselves once we've healed, and it's just life-changing. So I'm so excited. Yeah, so that's my goal. Yeah, thank you.
Well, everybody needs to buy your book so that you can
yes,
support.
Please.
Yeah.
Because the money goes here.
Yeah.
It's not about me.
So I would love to put the link to that website in there, and
yes, please.
And your book too. So I'm super excited about that. So is there anything that you wanted to share with me that you haven't yet?
That I haven't yet. Wow. Well, we can all live in hope. And I was listening yesterday to Dr. Jeremiah. Jesus is returning. He is. He's coming to get us and to take us to our eternal home. So I'm not a citizen of earth, I'm a citizen of heaven. And I just want everyone else to have that forward thinking. Like you said, what's my future? That's my future. That's how I live in hope, because this world is broken, let's face it, but we have eternal hope. But while we're here, I have hope that I can share this message so we can all get there. God wants us all there, but we have a choice. And so I long for that day, but then I'm like, no, I've still got too much to do here. There are people that I know and love that don't know you, Jesus. So that's my motive of getting up and living, and yes, to live in that hope springs eternal. It will be eternal and it'll be glorious.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, we have to be done because I have other things. I have to go to work now. Thank you so incredibly much
you're
for
welcome.
Your story and sharing your story with us today. I have truly appreciated it.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's a privilege, really, to have this platform to speak into the lives of other people. And yes, thank you, Lisa. Really, really enjoyed this time together.
Thank you. And happy birthday again to your mom.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.